Hi guys, it's Debbie, and today I can finally speak about Dunkirk, a film created by my favourite director Christopher Nolan, and a movie I have been eagerly waiting to watch for over a year. Dunkirk is based on real events which took place during the Second World War in the English Channel, so the stretch of water between Great Britain and France. In particular, the film focuses on the town of Dunkirk in France, in which hundreds of thousands of English and French soldiers were stuck surrounded by the enemy. The film opens with the soldiers trying to get back to England through the only possible route, which is the sea. But their resources are extremely limited, the boats are scarce, and have to take the soldiers on board from a dilapidated mole in atrocious weather conditions. And the enemy could attack at any given moment, both from fighter planes above their heads, as well as sudden offences from ground or sea. The film gives us the story of this desperate evacuation from Dunkirk from three different points of view. The first is that of the soldiers in France trying to get back home. The main characters that we follow in this section are Tommy and his fellow fighters Alex and Gibson. The three, as many others, desperately try to set off at sea but are repeatedly set back by the enemy. Protecting them from above is the Royal Air Force, which represents the second point of view in the film. The main character in this section is Farrier, portrayed by Tom Hardy alongside his fellow pilots. Their job is to try and keep the sky clear from German attacks on the soldiers and boats below. The third point of view is represented by all the civilians which set off from England on their own private small boats on a mission to help the stranded soldiers on the other side of the channel. The main boat that we follow is that of Mr. Dawson, which sets off with his son and another teenage friend. They are fully aware that their mission is extremely dangerous, but are brave and determined to reach out and help the army. Before watching Dunkirk, I convinced myself to not appreciate the film just because Christopher Nolan is my favourite director, because other films are some of my favourites. I tried to not be influenced by these factors. I wanted to go in and have a completely new opinion about the film, and turns out I absolutely loved Dunkirk. I personally think it's one of the best films of 2017. I still have to find a flaw in it, and it again proves that Christopher Nolan is able to create masterpieces in every genre. His films have covered a widespread variety of topics such as interstellar travel, analysis of dreams, murder and investigation, magic and illusion, the world of Batman, memory loss, and now he has successfully covered the war movie genre. Although, as it often happens with his films, the story is not just limited to the typical distinctive features of one single genre, but it imports details from a variety of them. For instance, Dunkirk is a powerful thriller which keeps us on the edge of our seats from the opening shots right until the end. It has hints of drama, and it covers topics such as love, family, friendship, anger. This is what makes Dunkirk so successful and appealing to a widespread audience. When speaking of war films, many people would turn down the offer of watching them, mainly because of the negative memory of tedious black and white documentaries we were forced to watch in school or on TV. And also, I understand that many people would not find what happened at Dunkirk as morbidly interesting as living in the concentration camps or what happened with the atomic bombs on Japan. But Nolan's Dunkirk has such an engaging plot, and it is so visually stunning that he had and still has crowds filling the cinemas with an audience which ranges from veterans to young teens. Also, a problem that happens with many documentaries or war films is that many things are taken for granted, as if the work just assumes that the spectators are well informed about all the facts. With Dunkirk, instead, the story is explained in a very simple manner, making it easily accessible to all audiences. But what exactly makes Dunkirk so engaging? Dunkirk drags us into the story right from the first opening shots, in which we meet one of the very young soldiers and we see the war from his point of view. We feel the need to get out of there as soon as possible. An attack could happen at any moment, from above, from below, from anywhere. There is no space for dialogues because the goal is just that of survival. So we are included in that feeling of anxiety, of wanting the characters to get out of there. This uneasiness, this feeling of utter suspense, of something terrible lurking just behind the corner, is emphasised by Hans Zimmer's soundtrack, which uses his trademark ticking sound, which counts down the time that's flying by, the time to the next attack, the time to the next death, and he combines this with a nearly siren effect and a sound which appears as if it is constantly rising but without ever reaching its climax, so always keeping us on the edge of our seats. I absolutely loved how the cast was cleverly put together. If you notice, many of the soldiers on the beach at Dunkirk look extremely similar. Just think of Fionn Whitehead, Anna-Marie Barnard and Harry Styles. In the midst of the fight, their appearance is so alike that in certain scenes it's easily to mistake one for another. And this is not not because we are not careful enough, but it is because Christopher Nolan didn't want a specific character development of one figure above the others. We do mostly follow Tommy on the beach, but yet the soldiers are still presented as this mass of young, unknown, unnamed soldiers. They're just pawns in a world scheme which is bigger than them, bigger than comprehension. And after all, even Tommy's name is an extremely forgettable and generic one, and I believe it's also a nickname for any given soldier. And this concept is why Harry Styles is not Harry Styles in the film. He is not the shiny new piece. He is identical to all his fellow soldiers. Young, skinny, brave, somewhat arrogant, but at the same time scared, inexperienced and traumatized. The film has an exceptional cast of famous actors such as Kenneth Branagh, Mark Rylance, but what I mean is that introducing a humongous famous name in the cinema industry such as DiCaprio, Depp, Pitt, Hanks, standing out in the crowd of unnamed shivering soldiers would have totally been out of place, ruining the anonymity of the whole situation. Then in stark contrast to the mass on the beach, the Royal Air Force pilots are analysed as specific individual characters. I believe because of the fact that there were so few of them, and the few of them that arrived were considered from below as angels that were saving the day. In particular, we meet Tom Hardy's character, which is the pilot of one of the Spitfire planes, bravely defending the territory. Tom Hardy is a recurring figure in Nolan's films, and I personally consider him one of the most skilled actors on scene at the moment. Throughout his career, he has covered a variety of different personalities, and I have always been amazed at his ability of conveying everything, a full set of emotions, a background, a character, with limited resources. Just think of Mad Max Fury Road when he barely speaks for the whole film, or Dark Knight Rises where his face is covered, and in Dunkirk most of his acting is conveyed through his eyes, as his face is covered for most of the film by a helmet and a mouthpiece. Speaking of limited dialogues, there is a common misconception that this film is 1 hour and 40 of nearly pure silence. In reality, the dialogues are limited, extremely limited, but they're not completely cut out and absent, because there are complete discussions and interactions. It is a stylistic choice which perfectly represents the general atmosphere of the film, because the main objective is that of surviving, of getting out of that nightmare, of conveying the right emotions at the right time without filling the blanks with useless information. For example, there's one scene which is also used in the trailer in which the soldiers are sitting on the beach looking out at sea, and you can really tell that those eyes which are barely 20 years old have already seen much more than what they should have. They are deprived of any emotion, and this speaks much more than words. Also, because we have such limited information about the characters, we tend to form our own personal idea of them. We tend to judge them with no previous material. For example, Cillian Murphy portrays a character which not everybody could love, including me. For a series of reasons I will not delve into to not spoil anything, but we must keep in mind the fact that we don't know anything about him or any other characters. We don't know what they have gone through, because that is the sense of war. A huge, incomprehensible, worldwide scheme which goes way beyond me, beyond you, or beyond any of the characters. Now let's take a look at the visual aspect of the film. Nolan once again teamed up with cinematographer Hoyte van Hoytema, which has worked on films like Her and Interstellar, and my high expectations were definitely not let down. Dunkirk is a breathtaking visual masterpiece under every aspect. From the dark, ominous sky to the stunning aerial shots of the sea, to the wind-blown foam around the soldiers' ankles, we are cast into this unwelcoming, cold, hostile environment. I definitely don't agree with the criticism surrounding the supposedly visible cardboard cutouts and the absence of a potentially favourable increased use of CGI. I personally found all the effects in the film to be realistic and convincing, and if you look up information as to how certain effects were conveyed and how certain details were introduced, you realise how the care put into this film is just overwhelming. So in general, I appreciated everything in this film, from the attention to historic accuracy, to the choice of the actors, from the use of sounds and music, to the dialogues, and then the ending. Again, I'm not going to reveal anything, but let me just say the ending is absolutely fantastic. It is magical, pure art, a climax of feelings, and at the moment I put it very high on a potential list of best endings. I have a feeling there is so much more I would like to say about this film, and I'm sure that as soon as this video is uploaded and I'll be doing the subtitles, so many more things will come to my mind. For now, another thing I'd like to add is just that I'm pretty sure that this film will be included in a few months when speaking about Oscars. Some of you may know that my favourite film of all time and my favourite film created by Christopher Nolan is Interstellar. So here comes the big question: is Dunkirk better? Speaking of my own personal opinion, I still prefer Interstellar. It speaks to me on so many different levels. It has taught me so many things about love, about appreciation of life, about death, about space, about time. But that being said, Dunkirk is very high on the list, and I believe it is one of the best films of the year. The only sad aspect of these films is that we will have to wait a long time before seeing something similar on screen. For now, thank you Christopher Nolan, thank you Emma Thomas, Houten van Hoytema, Hans Zimmer and all of the cast for once again allowing us to dream and have faith in cinema, one of the things which make this world so beautiful. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to check out my Christopher Nolan playlist, which I'll leave linked down below, and make sure to subscribe for more movie related content. See you soon. Bye.